All right. This is they're good at that. I don't know. Should it be they're good at that or they're good at that shit? Like I would personally, if it was me, like the way I talk, I just say they're good at that shit. But I understand, for accessibility and all of that, maybe I should just keep it with they're good at that. What do you think?
I would probably say they're good at that shit, but it's not the most family friendly, so I think it depends how how PG you want to be, I guess.
I mean, I this is mainly going to be for independent musicians, and I feel
Mhm.
like most independent musicians have filthy mouths anyway,
That's so true. Yeah, yeah.
so they probably don't care.
Yeah, you could like for YouTube, you could always like blank out the curse word,
Uh-huh.
like when it actually when
Just
they
in
say
the
the word.
title, just either leave it off or
You
like
could
put
do
like
like with an asterisk.
asterisk. Right, right,
Yeah.
right. But still call it what I want to call it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. The audience is probably I don't think they would care about the word shit.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So this is they're good at that shit where I basically talk to independent musicians who are killing it in certain aspects of the game and just pick their brain. So joining me now is a woman who has 370 plus thousand subscribers on YouTube, 22,000 Instagram followers, killing it on the social media game. Anne Reburn, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thank you for having me. Glad to be
So
here.
yeah. All right. 372,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is like insane. What is the secret sauce for that?
You know, the secret sauce was also a surprise to me. How I first kind of started to gain the bulk of my subscribers was one of my early videos, Mr. Sandman. Um it it didn't go viral, I won't say that, but it just slowly started snowballing over time. I could see from the comments that it was getting recommended in a lot of people's like sidebars on YouTube. And I think that part of that, I got a lot of comments that said, like, I was expecting this to be Enter Sandman, the Metallica song, but it was Mr. Sandman, the 50s song by the Chordettes. So I think a lot of the people clicked on it initially because they misread the title and they were expecting like a cappella Metallica song. What? So I'm not sure if that's a lesson that anyone can actually use, but I do think that's kind of part of what kicked it off for me.
Okay. So I mean, sometimes, you have happy accidents.
Yeah.
And but you were able to still build on that, it seems like. What was there anything you did after you started to see those, whether it was an accident or not? Was there anything you did after that to kind of keep it going or to keep like building on that momentum?
Yeah, I just kept going as regularly as I possibly could, which I know is really hard to do because we can come up against burnout so easily as creative people. But I think I was sort of lucky in a sense that mine wasn't like an explosion of views overnight. So it wasn't like an immediate onset of lots of pressure. I would say it that way. So it was more gradual, the growth that I saw because of that video. I think that was probably good for me because it just kind of allowed me to keep doing what I was doing and grow the audience slowly rather than be hit with like all of a sudden a overnight flood.
Yeah, I mean, but that's I think a kind of a good lesson in and of itself, in that, sometimes like if it's not happening right away, we're not seeing, hundreds of thousands of views immediately. We're like, oh, this is a failure. You know what I mean? But like
Yes.
sometimes it takes a second for something to catch on, and things can catch on later and can build, over time.
Yeah, oh, you're so right about that. And that's such a good point. Like one of my second most watched videos was one that didn't do well at first either. And it was probably like over a year after it was posted that it started to pick up for whatever reason. So yeah, it really just goes to show like you never know what's gonna go viral and what's not, and you never know when it could be, especially with TikTok. I'm bringing up TikTok now, but we've seen it so many times, it like revitalizing these old songs and bringing them back to chart. So like music has it's an interesting lifespan like that your work can have once it's out in the world.
Mhm. Absolutely. You brought up TikTok, and I was gonna bring this up later, but we're
Yeah.
talking about it right now. So just like this just happened, I have a video that has hit 600,000 views on TikTok.
Awesome.
First time. Listen, this is like nothing like this has ever happened before, even like anything remotely close to that. Um, what I was going to say is this funny about it is that the same video on Instagram has 4,500 views, maybe 5,000 now. Um, so like, do you post different content, different places? And if so, or actually, do you post like the same content in different places, is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And then if so, do you see like drastic differences sometimes?
Yeah, that is interesting how like this same exact video can have such a different performance on different platforms, which it can be frustrating, but it's also maybe kind of a good thing because we could think about it like it's not me, it's the platform.
Mhm.
You know, like it's not that your content on Instagram wasn't good enough to have that many views or something. It's just like they decided not to show it to as many people as TikTok did. And then like it did amazing, which is awesome, by the way. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I do my main content is all on YouTube, and then from the YouTube videos, I cut little clips out of that and then post those on social media. So usually it's like the same little clip that'll go on TikTok and Instagram Reels, for example. And but yeah, they I do see that they perform differently, and I don't know why. I don't
But
know if there's any rhyme or reason to it.
I think it is a lesson though, because I feel like some people, like I know a lot of artists that I feel like have given up on TikTok. And I feel like I was kind of in that place too. Like
Mhm.
over the pandemic, like there was nothing else to do. So I was like on it, posting all the time. And then kind of after, we got back to our normal lives, I kind of, I've been on Instagram, but I kind of gave up on TikTok a little bit. I still would post something on there every now and again, but I wasn't really, doing it as consistently as I was before. And then I just like kind of so happened to post this video uh on TikTok that I just posted. And lo and behold. But I think it's a lesson that like you never know. It's kind of like you're saying, you never know. So you should just post it everywhere you can. You know what I mean? Like why
Yeah,
not?
totally. Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, it also, I mean, okay, if you're a musician or an artist, you're kind of forced to be a content creator. But I would guess that most of the people who are watching this would think of themselves as musician first,
Mhm.
not content creator first.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, I think the content creation part can be tiring and it can feel like a pain or an obligation or overwhelming. So definitely repurposing anything that you make because also, if you post it once and then it just goes out, and then like maybe not everyone who's gonna love it will have seen it the first time you posted it. So I think, you can repost, you can share multiple places. Yeah, make the content like work double.
Mhm. Yeah, get your mileage out of it. We
Yeah.
spend the time and energy to make it. We might as well put it everywhere we can so that it can get the most mileage out of, what we're creating.
Yeah, especially if you don't really like making the videos or something, then yeah, you definitely want to use them as much as you can, I guess, optimize how you're posting.
Facts. So you said you start on YouTube, and you basically put everything there and then kind of funnel things out from there, which that would make sense for you because you have a massive presence on YouTube. I guess talk a little bit more about that, like the strategy, I guess, behind that.
Yeah, YouTube is where my biggest audience is. So that's the one that I prioritize. And that's why the content that goes on the other social networks is all stuff that's clipped from the main YouTube content. I definitely don't think that that has to be everyone's strategy. I think that YouTube in general now is a harder place to grow a following than probably Instagram and TikTok. So for someone who is maybe just starting or something, I don't know if I would recommend doing exactly that. But if what you want to do on social media is do covers like I do on YouTube, then yeah, maybe that could be your way to go. I don't know. There are so many different ways that you can do it. YouTube is the one that I prioritize because that's where I have the most people. And the followers on the other platforms, they usually trickle down from YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about that because, you know, sometimes as an independent artist, sometimes it's hard to see the benefits of content creation because like the ultimate goal, you know, is to get people to, you know, our Spotify or whatever, let's say, because we want people to listen to the music. So I was going to ask,
Mm.
like, do you see people come from YouTube to your Spotify or to, you know, Instagram, to other platforms and other places?
Yeah, definitely. I think that through my covers on YouTube, a lot of people have found my original music that probably wouldn't have found me if I hadn't been posting the covers. And that this is not the way that everyone has to do it, but I think it is a thing that works for some people. You know, if you enjoy doing covers, I have a lot of fun doing them. So I think it's a good strategy for me. Um, I know that not everyone who likes my covers will like the original music, and that's totally okay because I cover a lot of different genres and different decades, all kinds of different artists. I just cover like songs that I like, and I like so many different kinds of music. But if I wasn't posting on social media, how would any of those people have ever found my original music? So it's like a filter, basically. Like the more general audience that you have, there will still be, not all of them will like the original stuff. Not all of them will take the time to go to Spotify to listen to the original stuff. But when you have more people that are going into the funnel, so like a bigger audience overall, you'll have more people at the small end of the funnel, which is like the true fans, which are the ones that you really want.
Yeah, it's like you're outside with a jar trying to catch fireflies. You're not going to catch them all, but you'll get some of them, you know. Cool. Another thing that I was going to ask you is there anything specifically that you do on YouTube to like get those people to other places, whether it be like in your like in the description or you know, something like that? You put something to like direct them or link them, or maybe it's like an end card that you put like, hey, you know, do this, follow me, whatever. What you know, what kind of strategy do you have as far as that goes?
Yeah, it's always hard to move people from one platform to another, isn't it? Like people want to stay where they are. And I know a lot of artists who'll have like a big audience in one place, but it's such a struggle to get them to go somewhere else. So I do, you know, all the basic things. I'll do like um links in the description, um, little cards on YouTube or the end screen on YouTube linking you to somewhere else. I started experimenting with a little voiceover, like after my video is done, saying, thank you for watching and please consider supporting me on Patreon because Patreon is a huge thing for me. And if you can't support me on Patreon, help me out with a like, a comment, or subscribe. So I do the things that you're supposed to do, but I don't know what the best one is or how well they work really. There is an element of it that like they have to want to check out more. And
Mhm.
I'm not really sure. You can't manufacture that, right? It has to come from them.
Yeah, but also I think simply asking, those like asking you shall receive, right? Like I feel like sometimes we forget to ask, or we assume that they're gonna wanna check out other stuff or whatever. But like sometimes just simply asking, can go a long way. I mean, I did a YouTube course one time, and they were talking about, putting the in card on and asking people to subscribe and whatever. And I mean, I definitely saw, an increase in my subscribers, from doing that. And it
Yeah.
wasn't definitely not anywhere near your sphere, but like, but I did see, some increase. So
Yeah, that's great. I definitely think we should do those things and try not to feel bad about them, because the self-promotion can feel hard and it can feel gross sometimes, but I think we just have to grit our teeth and do it. Yeah. Ask and you shall receive. I love that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Another thing you said, you were talking about making covers, and I
Mhm.
wanted to touch on that briefly because I know that personally, sometimes I have like gone away from that just because I'm like, oh, I don't want to like be known as a, cover dude, or like I don't, or kind of like what you said, like I don't want people to be like all used to the covers, and then when I drop my original music, like then they're like, "Oh, this is trash" or whatever. But maybe that's just like a limiting belief. Like, what would you say to that?
I definitely hear where you're coming from, and I feel a little bit of that internal struggle too. I also, at the end of the day, I don't want to be known as someone who does covers,
Mhm.
but honestly, the covers are something that I started doing just for fun without any idea of where it was going to end up. And it started working and I had to keep doing it. I mean, I knew I had to keep doing it. So um I think also what you said about like covers and original music and kind of tying them together, it's something that I also think about a lot. Like I want there to be a logical bridge between the style of my covers and the style of my original music,
Mhm.
because I wanted to make sense. Like, I guess as from a branding standpoint. But I kind of feel like if you're doing the covers in your style, like you're doing the covers, and then you're also writing your own music, and maybe you're even involved in producing it too. I do think that eventually, like, common factors will appear because you are the common factor and you're making it, so it's coming out in your style, I think, or at least that's what I tell myself.
No, those are all amazing points. So yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. Um, for sure. How you talked about also like, Patreon, and I think I saw like you had some links to like merch and things like that on YouTube as well. Like talk about, I guess, kind of that process, and then how is that going?
Yeah, since YouTube is kind of my main thing, Patreon is also super important. And if you watch YouTubers, you probably know what Patreon is, or podcasters, maybe they also have Patreons a lot. Um, because on YouTube, the covers are recognized as copyrighted content and they're copyright claimed. So, it's really nice because I don't have to get a special license to put the cover on YouTube, but it means that YouTube's automatic system will automatically detect the copyrighted content and then revenue share an undisclosed percentage with the original rights holders. So you don't make as much as you would as if it were an original song that's not copyright claimed. And you don't make as much as you would as if it were a longer video where you can put ads in the middle. Because the ads on YouTube are how you make the money. And you can't put ads in a shorter video. And even if even if I could, I would never put an ad in the middle of a song. Like that's horrifying. So Patreon is a super important platform for me because of that, because I don't really make that much from those YouTube ads, just because of the type of the content that I make. Um, and Patreon changed my life, honestly. Like it made it so much more stable for me. And it's a concentration of like the most dedicated fans and the best people. And it's a little community that I really love. So um, it's it's been great for me.
Wow, that's interesting because I never even like looked into like getting on Patreon or anything like that. And I know a lot of people do it. But I just never even like it was something I never even like really like looked into, getting on. So that's interesting to hear you say that it changed your life.
What I did when I was starting my Patreon was I looked at a bunch of different YouTubers and especially musicians' Patreons and saw like what kind of rewards they were offering and how they were structuring it and stuff, because everyone has a slightly different thing. But I think, you just take everything in and then you could come up with something that works for you. That does, not every musician that has Patreon is a YouTuber either. Like some of them are just like musicians and you just post like the music video and the lyrics video on the YouTube and nothing else, no other content. So it's not just for like content creator people, I think.
All right, cool, good to know. Um, in terms of like, Instagram and TikTok, like, do you have, I mean, I know you talked about taking like, your YouTube videos and kind of funnel them out from there. But do you do some other, it seems like, when I was on your TikTok, like it seems like you do some other, trend stuff and like whatever. Like, how do you kind of like decide, what to do, or like kind of that balance? Um, you know.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Not everything is repurposed. Sometimes I do original stuff for those other platforms. I think for me, it's just the question is that YouTube is the priority. And if there's energy and creativity left over, then I'll use some of that for the other platforms. But it's also um I also need energy like to write music,
Sure.
and that's something that nobody sees.
Mhm.
So I think we can struggle a lot with feeling like we're not making enough content and stuff, but also like so much of the work that we have to do is behind the scenes that nobody sees, and people don't realize like how much work goes into just putting out one original song.
Right.
I feel like if you don't have the energy to be doing like a bunch of trend videos and stuff, then I think that's completely human and understandable because I don't either.
So how do you balance that, or how do you find the energy to like, stay on these platforms? I mean, because you have like, you do have, presence, on all these different places. So
Yeah. How do I find the energy? I think that part of the reason that it's so hard to be like at the beginning of an independent music career when you're still trying to build like a community and a following is that there's less positive feedback to feed you.
mm,
Um, because I have more of an audience now, and I have some people who have been following me for years, and I know them, like I know their name, I recognize their photo whenever they comment anywhere. We have conversations in DMs all the time. That is super, super motivational. Um, and I hate to say that like the fan feedback is the only thing that motivates me. It's not. There has to be something internal too, but it's so helpful. And that's part of why I think it's so, so hard to get started, is because like you get demotivated before you ever reach that point.
mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I even have any advice for that. I just want to recognize like it is really, really hard to keep putting stuff out there when you feel like you're not getting anything back.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of like what I was talking about on TikTok before, where it's like, it didn't feel like, I was getting anything from it. And so I was like, well, I'll just, focus on Instagram or whatever. But a lot of times I think, again, it's a lesson that, like, sometimes we quit before we see the return. Like, the return is coming if you, like, keep doing it consistently, but, like, sometimes we say, fuck it, before the return ever, materializes.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I mean, after having that video hit really well on TikTok, do you feel more motivated to keep?
Oh, oh God, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've already made like 8 more TikToks that I'm ready to, like, put out. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like, it started going off. I was like, oh shit, let me like I just started recording this mad content, like, So yeah, I'm like definitely motivated to do that. But another thing though, I will say is that I have been, like, in the last, couple weeks, watching a lot of videos on, like, content creation and branding and
Mhm.
things like that. So I also think that while it may not have been anything that I necessarily used in the TikTok that, like, went off, I do think that I do have some ideas as to how to move forward because of some of that, like, the study that I did. And so
Yeah.
I think,
Mhm.
like, I'm a believer in things happen when they're supposed to also. You know what I mean? Like when you, like, put in the work to learn something, then um when you put in the work to learn something, then, you know, things happen as they're, in the right time, I guess. Like it's like the universe, like, knows when you're ready for something in a way.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
So anyway, any other tips for, like, any of the platforms, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, like, just any other sauce you can give us?
Mm. Man, I don't know. I mean, like it sounds so cheesy, but like make what you have fun making because when you aren't getting that like fan feedback attention that you feel like you should be, the thing that's going to keep you going is like your own drive and your own passion and your own like you saying, I like making these videos, so I'm going to keep doing them anyway.
That is, like, so huge. It may seem like not a big deal, but, like, that's like everything. Like, when you do something that you enjoy doing, then you don't necessarily need to look for the, validation from other places, and you don't necessarily need, other people to pat you on the back, because you're like, you know what, I like this. So, fuck what everybody else is talking about. Like, this is what
Yeah.
I'm doing. So, you know, and also, like, sometimes you have to, like, put yourself out there, and some things might be, like, embarrassing. Like, I don't know about you. Like, have you ever looked at a piece of, like, content you did and be like, okay, this is embarrassing. Like,
Oh, all the
I look,
time. All
I
the
look
time.
so corny,
Yeah.
or I sound so stupid, or this or that or whatever. But, sometimes it's like you just got to put yourself out there, and let the chips fall where they may. And the thing is too is, like, which is a kind of a dumb limiting belief that I have sometimes, where it's like, man, I don't want to put this out there because nobody will watch it. Well, if nobody watches it, then, like, good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, then you can just, like, take it down. Nobody watched it. Like, what? Okay, cool. Like, wash your hands of it and, like, keep it moving. But, like, then it's like, nobody saw it, and it's not a big deal. Those 5 people that saw it, oh well. Like, so, like, you might as well just, like, throw it out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I think so, definitely. Not being afraid to be a little bit cringe, maybe too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing too. Like, recently, I started doing, content where I'm just being real. Like, I'm being, like, just being me, and, like, things that I might have been embarrassed to say before. I might have felt like, oh, my friends are gonna make fun of me over this. I
Hmm.
just, like, I just started like putting it out there. And I
Hmm.
think that's also just opened me up to just like being myself and not being like afraid to like put things out there in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 for sure. And I think like people can sense authenticity from someone. I think like I feel like that can only be a good thing, you know, bringing you closer somehow to like that audience that is perfect for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you like taking the time to talk to
Or
me and all the people out there, giving them your knowledge and these tidbits. Like I appreciate it.
thank you so much for thinking of me. So happy to do so. And yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good one. I
All
appreciate you.
right, you too.
Mm.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much for checking out They're Good at That Shit. If you like what you heard, definitely hit that like button. If there was something that you learned, let us know what you learned in the comments. And if there's something that you didn't learn that you wished you would have learned, then put that in the comments as well. We can use that to make these episodes better going forward. And hit the notification button so you can get notified whenever we drop new episodes. I'm Broadway, and we'll catch you next time on They're Good at That Shit.